are live. Welcome back to another episode of the Mecca of Banter podcast. We're quickly approaching 30, gentlemen. Not only in age, but
Nuts.
also in episodes. Here we go. Good to see you, fellas.
Yo, chill. Yo, chill.
Chill on that. It's Henry Wind. You can find me on Twitter at Henry Wind. For
Or,
now.
or as we're calling him after his fresh new haircut, Rodrigo DePaul.
Hey baby,
Looking ass.
looking ass. It's a great week to be a Manchester United fan. It always is, and this week is no different. We have I want to say a very special guest on the podcast, but really just a longtime absentee. So Lucas Winkleman, welcome back to the pod. How you doing?
What's up, gentlemen? Yeah, good to be here. Been traveling a lot lately for work and still haven't quite figured out a virtual way to join in properly, but very stoked to be here.
It's as if laptops don't exist, but happy to have you here. This man bought a house, so pretty soon, we might be doing a studio at Connor's house, at Lucas's house, at Nick's house. Yeah, the lads are buying houses. I am not, but happy for you too.
We're buying it with all this money we're making from our soccer bets, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
literally just all of
exactly.
that. He said, "Ha ha ha ha."
Not.
Dobes, man, what's up, bro? How are you?
What's going on, fellas? Happy to be here. Nice little bounce back after Thursday for United. Like Hen said, it's another great day to be a United fan. A couple of big fixtures coming up. Good bounce back from City too. So definitely happy to be here today. Happy to jump in. Good to see you guys.
Yeah. We have a lot of good stuff to cover on this episode, but last but not least, Andy Hoover. What's up, dog?
What's up, boys? Young Yid on the burner was an active weekend for the burner account. I can tell you that. The best part about Tottenham Hotspur is they usually only play once a week, so that way they only disappoint you once a week. But happy to get
There
into
it
it.
is.
Happy to get into it.
Dude, I mean, we do have a lot to get into this week with the weekly recap. Our team certainly had some games, but I feel like this was kind of a big week for everyone who isn't Manchester City. There's a lot of potential points picked up in the middle of the table to get top four, to get European sides. And it seemed like a lot of the teams not named Aston Villa just didn't get it done. So we have a lot to cover, but let's start off with the team who isn't represented tonight, Chelsea, with their 2-1 loss to Brighton. Now, on this podcast, we have been super complimentary of Brighton the entire season. This is not new that they come in and they beat a Chelsea squad that is in the bottom half of the table, but they just keep getting it done. They brought on yet another South American that is unheard of, 20 years old, to come in and score a screamer, to win the game. I mean, it's a fun team to watch.
They are a fun team to watch, and when Spurs beat them last week, like I was very, critical of the fact that they have a style and a system and a way that they go about things, and this was the exact same result, except they pulled it out. They were so you score some of these wild goals because of the way you play, and like sometimes luck goes the way of teams that it should.
Good point.
Because of how well drilled they are. They know exactly where they're supposed to be at all times. And you can leave it to a 20-year-old South American to just throw in an absolute worldie. But on the other side, it's the same, kind of issues with Chelsea as far as I've seen. They scored a scruffy goal through Conor Gallagher, and I thought it was almost comical how it went in. And that was the goal that they scored. I was just like, it was against the run of play. It was a ball, the scruffy shot, Chelsea. It went in the net. But no, Brighton are awesome, dude. I like Brighton.
I texted you guys this weekend when I was watching this game, and I said it almost felt like a training session, like watching, like genuinely, because yes, Chelsea did score that sort of a fluke goal, but the entire game was dominated by Brighton. The possession, chance after chance, where Chelsea kind of hung on, and 100% came away with the win in that game. They didn't deserve anything less than 3 points. And there's nothing really else to say for Chelsea. I mean, I don't There's no other words. They're not even worth talking about. They're so irrelevant in terms of this Premier League season. I mean, like their own team just makes their fans just not show up to the podcast either. So it's like Chelsea has become just sort of the laughing stock of the Prem, and with their schedule that they have remaining, it only looks like it's going to continue getting worse.
I know that we'll obviously get into their Champions League draw with Madrid this upcoming week a little bit later. But when you look at the lineup that Chelsea even fielded, it looks like they were just completely fucking off the league yet again. It's just not a convincing lineup any way you look at it. Like Stoke for CP that he got to start, but like it's just not a competing team. Trevor Chalobah was like their right back, and Reece James, we know he's made of glass. You can't risk him, but it's just not good to look at. De Zerbi over at Brighton, the coach, has to be getting some applause. I mean, both guys that he subbed in the first half because of injuries both scored. That's what you want in a manager. That's like great game tactics. But Chelsea just never really looked in the game. They were never going to prove that they could compete in the top 10. They're just not going to be there. So it's like 3 up, 3 down for Chelsea. It's just not going to happen. Another team that it's not happening for, Tottenham. Tottenham Hotspur lost, which, hey, yo, great for me. Great for Newcastle, terrible for Andy Hoover, who it was a 2-3 loss in a dramatic finish to Bournemouth. Yes, you're hearing that correctly, ladies and gentlemen. Bournemouth, no need to say where they stand in the table, but that puts a damper on your top 4 races.
Yeah, yep, it sure does, Hen. You got that correct.
Sure does, brother.
It was it's like Chelsea too, except they're just in 5th. It's like the coach is the guy that just has been Antonio Conte's right hand man forever. So you bring him back in, fine. What do you expect is going to be different? Nothing was different in the way they played. It was the same lineup, it was the same style, it was the same system, it was the same general attitude.
Same shit.
Same shit. There's no way around it. 20 minutes, they looked insane. They looked like they were the team that was in 5th and Bournemouth was not. They scored. It was great. And then they just completely slacked off. Like they backed off of all of it. They banked on runs in from Bournemouth and turnovers and counterattacks against Bournemouth. I don't know what they were doing in the first 20 minutes that looked so great and everyone was buzzing. And then they just stopped playing. I'm going to need to pull up my FOT mob here. So Davinson Sanchez came in. This was another interesting situation.
So weird. This was so weird.
This was weird, and I don't support it, and I think there's just I have so many thoughts, but so who was it that went down? Clement Lenglet went out. Davinson Sanchez came in the 35th minute. They scored immediately, and it was not directly his fault, but it was pretty. He was in the play, didn't set up Pedro Porro well. Pedro Porro got pushed, goal. So that was a huge bummer. And then they scored immediately again in the 51st minute after halftime, and it was directly Davinson Sanchez's fault. Like he just got beat, looked bad, goal. He got subbed out for Danjuma a couple minutes later, and the Tottenham fans cheered him off. They booed him when he got subbed. I thought that was really weird. I don't like it. From a player point of view, the guy's been here for years, and he's not the best defender, and everyone knows that. But that's not his fault. It's not a lack of effort. It was 2 mistakes. That sucks. You can't boo the guy. I'm not mad he got subbed off. I think sometimes when you have a shocker, you deserve to change out the team. And I think ultimately it's not his fault because he shouldn't be here. It's years and years and years of management and the upper staff that he is still here, and he was that backup center back, and he was put in that position to continue doing the things that we know he does do. So it's not like this is a shock to anyone that he came in and played like that. It's a shock that that is still where we're at. Like, that's the real issue. So then they're down 2-1, come back in it. Danjuma gets a goal.
Great.
That's great. Wow. Maybe if we played him more throughout the year, he'd have more goals. What a fucking thought. So that was cool. And then they caught a classic, 95th minute counterattack.
Absolutely electric. Absolutely electric.
Yeah. Oh my God, the scenes in the corner and the way end were, credit to Bournemouth. They pushed. Like, it was a deserved finish for them. It's just every day it gets less surprising. Like, I don't even, what is top 4 if we're still doing this stupid song and dance? Why we don't deserve any sort of European competition. This is when we needed to do the Arsenal thing and finish like 8th or 7th, 9th, whatever they did that one year. And they rebuilt. So they went out and changed things. That's not going to happen. This is Tottenham Hotspur. Daniel Levy's in charge.
I mean, I guess like what's tough is obviously when you sub a guy in and then sub him off within 25 minutes, regardless of the goals. Do you look at Sanchez for that, or do you more look at the coach? Because like, I'm trying to put myself in his shoes. Yes, the goals weren't directly his fault, but it's like it's not his fault. As a defender, your goal is to keep the ball out of the net. But like, Stellini has to be thinking ahead. That's like, that to me shows just like poor man management when that's the case.
Yeah.
Now, that happened with Garnacho a couple of weeks ago at United, but a very different circumstance. Like, we had to protect the lead, like injuries happened, different. This was, yeah.
It felt, well, at the time of the game, Spurs were up 1-0. So in my mind, Stellini's not thinking we need to switch to the back 4 and start to get more pressing going forward because the instructions were score a goal and stop, score a goal and sit in your shape. So his plan was continue sitting in the shape. That was the only other center back that we had. I don't think that he was going to put anyone else in. So I think I think Stellini's at somewhat of a fault here. But I also think he didn't have anything else. I think, ideally, Davinson Sanchez should be good enough to sit in a back 5 and hold the position down for 60 minutes. But that didn't happen. Neither of them look good after any of this. The fans don't look good. I thought it was harsh of them to boo him. I'd not seen something like that from Tottenham fans because I think generally they're a rather mild fan base compared to some of the other clubs. But it all sucked. It's so evident that it's so much deeper than the players or the culture. There's a culture issue. Fans aren't angry enough about Levy yet. They're making too much money. It's not a problem for any of the ownership. There's not going to be any sort of organized protest that's going to work because Tottenham's built themselves into this, travel type club. You get randos from all over the world coming to every game and they'll pay hundreds of dollars. So it's so commercialized. Everything's just so different from when I first started watching. Some of it sucks,
but do you guys not put like pressure on the owners? Like, the only thing I can compare it to, and I don't want to make this about Manchester United, but obviously, like, I'm not in Spurs Twitter. I'm very much in United's like whole shit. So like, obviously we saw what happened last year with the United Liverpool game got postponed because there was like a massive protest, and like United's one of the most commercial clubs in the entire world. Like, it has a worldwide fan base, and so people travel all the time to get those tickets. Is there not like I can name 3 organized Manchester United fan clubs right now that would like put a protest out there, very active. I mean, every United game, home or away, you hear the "We want Glazers out" chants over like the speakers. So like, what about Spurs? Is there nothing like that?
It's fractured because they have similar clubs that do set up protests. They're just toothless because not everyone at the club agrees. The old heads remember the 80s, and Spurs were hardly a mid-table team for years. So that's their viewpoint is, oh my gosh, look how far we've come. We've got all this. We've got the stadium. We've got this practice facility. We've got the best stuff in the world. What do you mean, Daniel
F1.
Levy? Yeah, I don't even know what the fuck this F1 thing is, but we have some partnership with them. That's their viewpoint. Everyone else who's younger is, we want more. We want more. You're not doing what you say you're doing. So there's no protests that have any weight. You'll hear the levy out chants here and there, but even then, it's not the entire stadium. It's not a full, voice of the fan base. So as long as everyone's not on the same page with that, it's not going to be, anything that Daniel Levy is going to be worried about. There's
That's
not a lot of
interesting.
communication from the club to the fan base either. I think there's a huge gap in what the fans expect and think, and what the board is doing. The board gave themselves, they're the highest paid board in the Premier League. They gave themselves a raise this year. They're upping season ticket price for year-long holders over £150 or something like that. So they're just missing it. They're just missing the point. So it's shitty to watch, but that's what
sucks.
I signed up for. Yeah.
Now that's what I signed up for. Now looking ahead for you a little bit, Newcastle dropped points this last weekend. We can talk about Aston Villa if we want. They're on this crazy tear. They've been like this long shot to get top four, and now it looks like a real possibility, but they drop points against Aston Villa. But you all play them this next game. It's Newcastle against Tottenham. It's a huge game for top four. How are you feeling about it?
Miserable. St. James is a horrible place to go and play, and we just lost to Bournemouth at home. So there's just nothing to get excited about. I don't think they deserve it. I don't think, they deserve top five. I think Aston Villa is going to, sweep through the rest of their season, and they've got a real shot for that too. So, no, I have no good predictions for this game. I think Vegas is going to tell you that there's some juice on the Newcastle money line. And as a betting man, that's where my head's at. But there's always that chance that Harry Kane has a double, and we see a world class Sonny. They're unplayable when they're on, but it's just whether or not they have the leash and or assistance around them to do anything. They signed Eric Dyer to another contract extension, bro. How fucking what kind of tone deaf shit is that? He's the reason that half of these problems are happening. We've gone through 5 managers with him.
I
and
know
he's
that
not an issue.
we're not over here as United fans like looking perfect. We still have Phil Jones at the club. Like, we have all these guys out on loan because no one can sell them. I get that, but it's got to be tough to be a Tottenham fan when you look at something like Eric Dyer continuously getting extensions. But we've had our fair share. Like, I know what you're talking about as a United fan. The job of taking over that club as a manager is getting harder and harder to watch and harder to fathom. We're not going to dive into it now, but I just genuinely don't know who's going to do it. So, well, I'll be curious to see how the next couple of weeks and months play out for you all in that regard. But moving on into Sunday, Lucas, what a week for you to be back. Arsenal might bottle it, man. They might do it. It's a 2-2 draw against West Ham, which on paper I did not see coming, but it happened. Talk us through the game and what went so wrong for you all. Oh, you muted us.
Yeah, boy. 2-2 draw against West Ham, like you said, away at London Stadium, which was absolutely buzzing the whole time. Second game in a row, we've let a team come back from being down by being up by 2, rather. For any of you guys who watched the game, we looked fantastic early on, especially the first 10 minutes, like very, very traditional Arsenal blitz at the beginning, Gabby Jesus and Odegaard scored early. Um, Great dive by Lucas Paqueta around Gabriel. Big momentum, big momentum,
Bro.
big momentum shift after that.
Brother.
And like we talk about in a lot of these games, a 1-goal lead in a football match is always a dangerous lead to have. Um, but at this stage of the season, you would think that we would be kind of collected enough to handle that, especially against a team like West Ham, knowing kind of the form they've been in the whole season. Um, Saka missed a pen in the second half too. Every single player who takes penalties for their club knows that they're going to miss him from time to time, and I have no doubt he'll bounce back. The
100%.
next day he came out on Instagram and said something along the lines of, regardless of the outcome, he accepts his responsibility. He apologized to the fans and said that he'd do everything he can to make it right. Uh, you can't, you just can't not love the guy. Um, I feel like he's been very Sonny-esque in that way, that he's one of those guys that no matter what team you play for, you just you like him as a person. Um, and after he missed that, Odegaard did what class captains do, was the first one there to make sure that he stayed positive, kept his head up, despite not having a very good game at all by Saka standards up until this point in the season. But nonetheless, the momentum shift again after missing that, and we could hear it around London Stadium. Hammer supporters were going crazy, and Jared Bowen tied it up a few minutes afterwards. Man, do we miss William Saliba? Not having him in the last few games really has shown how much of a rock he's been for our back line and for the team as a whole all season long. But Arteta said in a post-game interview, we can only blame ourselves here. We were the ones who gave them hope, especially at those two major points in the game that I mentioned earlier, surrounding giving up a penalty and then missing one. Uh, I trust Arteta, though. We're just gonna have to, do this thing the hard way. Everybody's. I've been getting DMs on Instagram, Twitter, texts from you guys, all weekend and today about how we're gonna bottle this thing, but we're just going to do it the hard way and shut you guys up. 7 games left. We need a big 3 points from Southampton on Friday ahead of City on the 26th, I think. And I think that especially and that's away at the Etihad too. So like I've said on every pod minus the last two that I haven't been a part of, we just need to continue to treat these like finals. And one thing from a tactics standpoint that I was thinking about and wanted to point out was Saka has played, I think, the most minutes for our team in 2023, at least, maybe the whole season. I'd have to double check my math on that, but I was curious. I was intrigued by Arteta's decision to keep Saka on the whole game. Or sorry, not the whole game, but until Reece Nelson came on. Seeing that he, wasn't having a very good game and missed the pen, I think would have been a good opportunity to bring Trossard on the right side rather than taking Jesus out for Trossard earlier on in the game. Again, for a guy that is playing a ton of minutes for us, Trossard's been, a catalyst ever since he joined in January. And, we see our team scoring more goals when he's on the field. So I think that would have been a good opportunity for Arteta to bring him on for Saka on the right side, and then eventually, bring on Nketiah or Reece Nelson for, Jesus or Martinelli, whatever he would have thought there. But Martinelli's been, one of the highest rated players in the Prem the last month, 2 months collectively. He's been unreal. And so for us to take him off before we took Saka off was just kind of confusing to me, seeing how Saka was adjusting to the game, since the first minute. He was the weakest of our front three that whole game, and I just don't think it was super intelligent to have kept him on the whole time. But like I said, I have no doubt he'll bounce back. Players miss pens. Um, and last time he missed a pen for England, he went on an absolute tear after that. So
Yeah, he's missed bigger pens in bigger games and has
100%.
responded. Um, But you heard it here first, folks. Lucas Winkleman calls Mikel Arteta an idiot. Never thought I would hear it, but clear as day.
Yeah,
dude. I think it's dumb that Saka had to apologize for that. Like I get you're in the front of the league.
It does, but
good.
Right. We saw unfortunately what happened to him after he missed the pen for England and kind of all the racist stuff that came out about him after that. So but being in the public eye, all of these, especially when you have like such a kind heart like he does, those kind of players feel the need to take responsibility for that.
And
for sure.
And
with social media being such a big part of today's game too, it's never a bad opportunity to build not build a following is a weird way to put it, but just like find a way to make sure that the supporters have your back in that way by taking responsibility for it versus, just not saying anything at all and going to the next game. So
get that.
Why is it the hard way?
Why is Declan Rice back around?
Oh, he's a great player, and I just wanted to. I couldn't find a wide angle picture of our captain Odegaard, having a charity jersey signing for him after the game. It was just this, collat of these two photos. But yeah.
It's just interesting. I mean, Declan Rice is a great jersey collector. He's like been on record talking about like his favorite jerseys he's ever gotten. I just find it interesting. I don't know if I would ever put like a different Prem team as my background, but Arsenal's a weird fan base.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
you've
really
definitely had other teams as your background. We can check the
Prem
receipts.
Team.
Okay.
Check them, baby.
I will happily. I'm pretty sure you had a Bournemouth background at one point.
That was me.
That was Dobes.
Yeah,
all United supporters are the same. Yeah.
Okay, so Lucas, I know that it's 2 games ahead thinking about, but I can't help but ask because you brought it up. You play City at the Etihad. Do you feel that the winner of that game wins the Prem?
I mean, I think that both teams looking at their remaining schedule should win out on paper. So I think that it'll definitely have a big impact on.
I mean, I would have put Arsenal against West Ham winning that game 10 out of 10 days. And,
that's what I'm saying. That's why I said keyword should. Anybody can beat anybody on any given day. We know that. Bournemouth beat Spurs. That was probably correct on paper, but most of these. But anybody can beat anybody on any given day, or Liverpool beat United, tie them.
Holy shit!
I'm keeping that bottle word out of my mouth. I'm keeping the bottle word out of my mouth until
no, you're good. These two will say it enough for you. But
I haven't even got a word yet. So
Dobes
is salivating over there.
Genuinely, both of these teams, aside from the game against each other on paper, should win out. So I think that that's an accurate statement, knowing that City are a game in hand, and that's why I think that game is going to be one of the best games of the year, if not the game of the year, knowing how big of an implication that's going to have on the title race.
I mean, you guys, we're not going to go this easy on him. Like we can't possibly go this easy on him. Like, yeah, like I feel bad for Saka. Yeah, that sucks. Like that was a pen to like win the Prem.
Yeah,
and like win the Prem right there, and he fucking bottled it. So, like he fucking bottled it. Like that's one of those Prem defining winning moments.
Yeah, you're gonna see that one on the highlight tapes.
Like, I'm curious as to your guys' thoughts because I've seen this debate on Twitter. This isn't even like banter. Take like the schedules out of it. We'll take like the schedules out of it because both teams have definitely like games that they could possibly lose. I think left on the schedule, like playing each other included. So do you think that like moving forward, like say City goes on to win the league, like would it be considered Arsenal bottling it to you guys, or is that big City being that good? Because City would have gone on a run of winning like 10, 15 games in a row in order to win the league.
No, that's bottling it.
It's bottling it 100%.
we can go back on. We're gonna do a receipts of the year section where we go take the best takes from the pod, and
And the
one of
worst.
mine and the worst, and one of mine is going to be Lucas's statement on the stats of how good Arsenal had of the first half after X amount of games, and that they were better than every team that had won the league other than that one City team in 16
In their last 5 years, yeah.
in the last 5 years. So that tells me that that's bottling it. It's only because of the stats. It's not because it was an easier year. It's not because X X X and Y. You guys had an incredible start to the year. You've been in first the most of any club the entire year. You've had gaps of points in those said games. Winning the league is tough. I will give you that, and I will not say anything else regarding that. But yeah, that's bottling it, bro.
I think the only stat that you need to look at for that is like halfway through the season. What was it? They were like 12 points clear at the top, or 9 points clear, or whatever
I don't know
it is.
specifically. Yeah,
we'll have to go back, but like I think anytime there's that big of a gap,
that's fair.
I think that is significant. I think that is big enough to consider it bottling. I don't think that there's now it would be different if City and Arsenal had the same points halfway through the season, had the same points 75% of the way through the season, and Arsenal dropped like 1 or 2 points. They tied when they should have won, or whatever it was, and City continued to win. That wouldn't be bottling it to me. It would just be like they just fucked up. To be that clear and to not capitalize on what City fucked up the first half of the season, that's the bottle for me. That's where they're not closing out games. You know, Saka makes that pen and puts it up 3-1 at that point. Different game. But
yeah, the momentum shift is crazy. And what's even crazier about that is, you know, who did you just say City's won like 15 in a row or whatever?
No, but
one of you guys said that.
Saying that if they close it out to win,
if they were to close it out, it's what it is. It would come out to something like that.
The crazy thing is we're unbeaten in our last 9 Premier League games too. So like that's the other tough part is, you know, we're not laying down and dropping all 3 points. You know, at this point in the season, and again, there's 7 games left, so there's, you know, still a lot of games to play for. Anything can happen, but yeah, it's just crazy. They're, you know, every week, it's not every week, but every other week, every 2 weeks, it feels like they're just slowly creeping. And yeah, it goes back to just like when we get ahead early, what's the mentality of the team? You know, are they getting too comfortable and sitting back too much? And it also goes back to us, you know, really missing Saliba in the back to really, you know, we can't put our faith in Rob Holding to make sure that, you know, everybody stays locked in for 90 minutes. We need Saliba back, and you know, he had that unfortunate back injury before the international break, but it sounds like he's going to be back for this weekend. If not, he'll definitely be back for the following Wednesday or whatever day, the 26th Wednesday that we play City.
Yeah,
I also think that
bottle job. It's a bottle job. It's the biggest
to
bottle
each their
job.
own.
This is like Warriors up 3-1 type bottle job stuff. Like this would be up there in my opinion, like very close and rival biggest like chokes in history. I think the thing is not that like Winks makes a good point that they haven't dropped points, like they're unbeaten in 9. I think the more worrying thing for me is like Flan brought it up in the Mecca. It's the difference in performances at the level that both the 2 different teams are at.
I'll agree to that. Yeah, you
can argue City hasn't looked this good all season, and you can argue that Arsenal, quite the opposite, hasn't looked like this the entire season. So I think that to me is like the only worrying sign is like Arsenal does it. Both of these teams, every single game from here on out's like a final. And I think when you look at the City team, I think what's crazy, I saw a stat today is we talk about how City has like 2 whole first teams. I saw a stat today that said that City has only used 18 players this year in the Premier League that they've rotated through. And the fact that those players are the players that have been there and done that, they're going for a 3-peat now. So like they're used to playing meaningful games this late in the season.
And all those guys play 3 different positions.
And and they
yeah.
can play anywhere. So that's why I mean I think it is a bottle job, but like I do think there's some sort of argument that like we've kind of known coming into this season that City has the potential when they get clicking to like be just the best team in the world, and we're seeing that right now at the absolute right time.
I think bottle job is harsh, frankly, just because of how good City is. If City
I
wasn't
think it's
in
so
this
accurate
league,
though. Like I think bottle job is
it
the
has to
only
be.
accurate. It's like harsh, sure, but like that's being so nice to Arsenal. And like so let's take Lucas out of it because like Lucas is
they're
just a
saying all
sweet
of this,
boy.
and we're still in first.
Yeah, but like,
but if City
but that's
went out, they win the league.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if City goes and wins it, it's still a bottle job. If United were 9 points clear or 12 points, whatever it was, and they lost to City, regardless of how good City was, that's a bottle job. Like, that is they blew it hard. So, like, yes, harsh, sure, but
that's also assuming they're going to win out. A lot of assumptions going on. Still 7 games to go.
That's
bro.
That's we're fans. That's what we do. That's all we have. It's all we have.
Dude, I don't know. I just think that I just think that Arsenal is not quite there yet. And that might be a bold shout coming from a third place team here, but like just seeing what I'm seeing, that math ain't mathin'. I don't know if they have that yet. On the flip side,
all year.
If Tottenham can beat City, any of these teams in their remaining schedule can beat them too.
Tottenham always beat City. At least give me that.
Literally always.
They always beat City. No, Hen, you have said since the beginning that you still do think Man City's going to win the league, and
100%.
I've not argued it once, but I have clear emotional interest in that. So, but I'm defending that take because you said it all year.
Yeah,
it's so weird though, because like, do you want? For me, it's like the personal relationships that I have in my everyday life. Arsenal winning the league would be the worst possible thing in the entire fucking world.
Terrible.
But then it's like, that means rooting for like a City three-peat. So it's like
it's literally, but the thing is like it's the thing that I care least about in the entire world. Of like, if City wins again, it genuinely doesn't fucking matter to me. I'm like,
that's what I mean. It doesn't affect. I don't have a City fan that's a friend or anybody that's gonna let me hear it every day. So it's
Jacob Krupp is gonna send
also
a little hand.
We never hear from him.
We won't
literally whatever the text was last year, it was like, well done, Krupp. Congratulations, see you fellas in a couple months. Like, who gives a shit? Because
kind of hard though. Like, they're so used to winning that's all you gotta do.
Yeah,
they
don't give a fuck because no one cares. Like, no one cares if that's the case.
Life would be a personal hellscape for JP Murray if they bottled this league. So I do.
That's what I was gonna say is we've got these Arsenal fans that would like give a ton of shit or whatever, but I know like I would be just
Lucas is like, I just want a trophy.
Yeah,
man.
bro.
Come on.
Not even just a trophy, just a prem specifically. Like, fuck everything else, but I would be so happy for this club and the rebuild that we've been through that like my brain wouldn't even be thinking about any other team giving anybody shit about anything. It would literally just be like a euphoria.
Would you book a flight to London if you guys won the title? Would you fly to London?
Here's
you won't.
I've been thinking about
book
that.
The flights in Istanbul. Jurgen Klopp.
Yeah. So here's kind of where my brain's been at with that. So I just bought a house and have to put a large sum of money into a down payment.
Credit cards.
In exactly a week and a half. Yeah. So
this is the financial advice podcast.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in.
So I'm thinking about just absolutely hammering the over in the Arsenal City game, enough money so as to pay for my flight to London. I feel like that would be financially responsible.
Would be so electric.
Could you imagine?
That would be so funny.
I feel like that's the most financially responsible thing I could do.
Dude, I feel like you could post on your Instagram story if you guys win that game and you think you're going to go on and win the title, say, I want to go see this. I've been waiting my entire life. Venmo me $5, and I guarantee you would get enough Venmos to pay for your own flight.
Or
guaranteed.
Put more money on the over.
True.
Ooh, that's why I like you.
Double or nothing.
Yeah.
So on the opposite side, to get away from Arsenal for a second, West Ham with those points,
Massive.
we've mentioned it. Yeah, we've mentioned a couple weeks in a row now how big the relegation battle is for the bottom half of the table, and West Ham are sitting in 15th now with a game in hand, which is huge. You know, they are quick maths, 4 points off the relegation spot with a game in hand. That's a great place for them. David Moyes is getting it done. I think that they're going to do it. I think that West Ham is going to stay up. I don't even know what would happen if they went down. I mean, some of those players that they have in that squad are so quality. Declan Rice would go for, half of probably what he's valued at.
Yeah.
So big.
I wish we'd find out what happened if they go down.
I
really would. I wish we'd find out.
But low key, I have a soft spot for David Moyes. I just do. I think that he's
Fuck
class.
that guy.
Dude, I love him. I listened to like a podcast with him. I'm like, the guy's great. I fucking love him. But another thing that I fucking love, Manchester United winning. Connor Sindobri. You mentioned that it was a tough Thursday for us. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But bouncing back for this Nottingham Forest game, I'll call it out early. Nottingham Forest is a team that we should beat every day of the week. So I'm not out here looking like a 2-0 victory over Nottingham Forest as us winning the Prem or anything like that. But I think we responded really well in a game where we potentially couldn't have. And I was well pleased with a 2-0 victory. What were your thoughts?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's very few games that coming into where you see Maguire and Lindelof as your center back pairing. Like, am I ever in a million years going to be excited to watch? But it was actually quite the opposite. And truthfully, I think this is one of the first times this season, and I've mentioned it so many times to you guys that, Sabitzer got hurt in warmups, and I think that it sounds crazy, but it benefited us immensely. Like Eriksen, Casemiro, and Bruno was like arguably the best I've seen our midfield three look in, I can't even tell you how long. It was that Peter Jury quote of, Bruno and Eriksen are long lost brothers that were meant to play together, because those three in the midfield just absolutely bossed the game from start to finish. I can't even, who've closed your ears, because I can't even tell you like how good of a footballer that Eriksen is. And I still think that as good as Bruno Fernandes is, I still think he's underrated. I also have to give a little shout out to the Iceman, Victor Lindelof. I truthfully think that he goes so far under the radar, and I think that if Harry Maguire didn't wear the armband at the moment we needed another center back, that it should be Lindelof. And I truthfully wouldn't be surprised after watching the game on Saturday of moving forward with the center back crisis we have going on, that if he doesn't sort of slide Lindelof in there and play him with Luke Shaw, because I genuinely think he's that good, and I think if you can play him on the right side, that he's that much better. So I could sit here and we could complain about the injury crisis, but at the same time, sort of that mentality that Ten Hag has, it's like no matter who's on the field, you have to step up and show out, and that's exactly what happened. So big 3 points, with some key teams losing, to give ourselves a little breathing room in third.
Yeah, it's a big 3 points.
Subtle dig to the Chelsea fans there. Sorry.
Hey, yo. But I think you're spot on. I think the worst thing for Lindelof's career is the fact that he's played next to Maguire so frequently. And it's like McFred, for example. You don't really talk about Fred, or you don't really talk about McTominay unless you talk about both of them. It's McFred. Same thing with Lindelof and Maguire. It's just that's been the partnership for so long that I think when you put Lindelof next to Lisandro Martinez, you put Lindelof next to Luke Shaw, much better ball playing center back, much more calm. I think when I watch them together, Lindelof is literally one eye on the ball, one eye looking at whatever the fuck Maguire's doing, because he knows that he's just going to have to cover for him. It's never a good look. And so I think that Ten Hag really backs him. My worry is that we're going to get to the summer and we're going to get to the transfer window, and Lindelof is basically going to say it's either him or me when it comes to Maguire. You either get rid of him or you get rid of me, because I think Lindelof is aware that he's third on the pecking order. He's not ahead of Varane. He's not ahead of Martinez, but he knows for sure that he's ahead of Maguire. And if he's not getting chosen over that, or if Maguire's still sticking around, I think that that's going to be the case. It's him or me. But that's for a later date. That's for a different conversation. For this game, we saw Delo playing left back, which is the first for United. It's the first time we've seen him start in that at United, but it's not a first for him. When he was at AC Milan on loan, he did that most of the season. He played there most of the season, which I liked it. I liked the look of it. I think that Wan-Bissaka is proving your take correct week in, week out, Connor, when you say that Wan-Bissaka is right back number one. I still don't understand if we're linked with another right back in the offseason, what that means for either one of them. But it was good to see them both putting in a good performance. And for me personally, if Luke Shaw can come back and he's 100% fit, I would love to see a Luke Shaw and Lindelof partnership in the center back with Delo on the left and Wan-Bissaka on the right when it comes to the Europa League. So 3 points up, 3 points won. Anthony really pissed me off. ESPN FC, which I don't know if you all listen to it all. I've given up on them.
So shitty.
No, they're
so
trash.
Dude, they're so bad. They were absolutely ripping on Anthony this last game, and it was Anthony's best game that he's played in a United shirt by a mile, with a goal and an assist, putting in effort both sides of the ball. He was exactly the midfielder, or excuse me, the winger that we signed over the summer. I hope that he continues like that. It was great to see. I thought Sancho was cooking a little bit. Again, not getting too far ahead of myself. It's against a relegation side of Nottingham Forest, but it was great to see.
The last point I want to make is the injuries suck, but there's something came out. It was like I think Cassie, Eriksson, and Bruno together played 17 games together. They've won 15 and drawn twice. Like I think that there is sort of light at the end of the tunnel to where like Luke Shaw is expected to be back on Thursday. Like McTominay is expected to be back. Garnacho was training today. Sabitzer's not supposed to be out that long. Like Rashford could be back Thursday. If not, he should be back for Brighton at the weekend. So, just sort of the job that Ten Hag has done, it goes under the radar, but, United has the most shutouts of any team in Europe, which is outrageous. De Gea is currently leaving the Prem with, 14 shutouts now or 15 shutouts. So it's somehow, like, I hate Harry Maguire. I don't think him or Lindelof are at the level of being able to play at United, but like Roy Keane said it best today, it's like if they can't come out and play how they did against like Nottingham Forest, they don't belong to be there. It's like that's sort of the expectation, and they got the job done. Hopefully that Varane is not out for the season, or we can at least figure something out. But just have to be happy with the performance. Maguire had a yellow card and early in the game, had to play the entire game with the yellow and did okay. So by any means necessary, and that's what Ten Hag has instilled, that United have to come out and win every single game, no matter who's on the field, and that's the expectation.
I can't wait to get to the end of the season and talk about like a season recap and essentially like deep dive into each one of our clubs and talk about the job that's been done. But I think now we're getting towards the end of the season. Ten Hag has proven to be someone that I don't always know what his next step's going to be. I don't always know what decisions he's making. But I'm happy to say that, 95% of the season, I've agreed exactly with what he's done. I trust him. I trust that moving into this next stretch of games with Brighton and with Sevilla, that he's doing exactly what he needs to do. We move to the last of our teams. This is the game that truly I honestly don't care about at all, but I'd be remiss to talk about. Liverpool beat Leeds 6-1 today. It's like it's a game that I'll comment on for Butch, but like I literally don't care about it in the slightest bit. Leeds probably wasn't going into that game thinking that they were going to like battle them for relegation, and I don't think they cared. I also don't care. I don't know if any of you have anything to say about the game.
Dude, it was way more that Leeds sucked than Liverpool was good, because Leeds was miserable. It was tough. It was tough to watch, honestly.
I would rather have painted my entire house again and sat there and watched the paint dry than had to watch that game today. I'm sorry. Shout out Liverpool. I think the one thing that I have seen tweets about is like people were saying that Leeds wasn't going to miss Tyler Adams, and we've sort of seen over the past couple of games just how bad they do miss Tyler Adams.
That's their worst home defeat ever. They lost 5-1 last week to Crystal Palace and then 6-1 this week at home. That's
not looking great for their new manager.
I'll tell you that there's some validation for Jesse Marsch right there, though, because it was a whole lot of Jesse can't figure out his back line. Jesse's leaking goals. No, Pascal Struck and whoever the fuck these guys are leaking
Liam
goals,
Cooper.
bro. Yeah, no, they're leaking goals. That team is not that good.
Yeah.
And they've had some magic to stay up, so they got throttled.
Winks, we've been high on Melier, the goalkeeper, the last like 2 years. I hope that he at some point comes good because that rookie card that we purchased may be a bad investment.
We didn't buy it for enough to where I don't think it'll really dip in value though, because he's still young. It's more so, yeah, we would just love to see him go to a bigger club or, be a backup and then, the starter gets hurt and he comes in and just shines or something. But yeah, we need something at him.
He definitely looks better on not leads, I'm sure.
So that's the thing. Like, I feel like Griff would be the only person that could really weigh in on this. But like when I watch him play, I'm like, I can't tell if he's letting in goals because he's not good or if it's because like he's getting literally no support and that's just the nature of it. Like Griff's a fantastic goalie, but I know for a fact when I'm not marking up in Sunday League, that man is leaking goals and it's my fault, not his. So. Yeah, I don't know.
I think with him, it's definitely the combination of the two because I've seen him give up some ones that he definitely should have. But then I've also seen Leeds just get shredded to pieces and get scored through get scored on by tap-ins. So I don't know. I don't really know what to make of him yet. He's good with the two people in front of him. Definitely mean more than most.
Yeah, he's still young. Moving on to the last, but certainly not least of our weekly recap. We have the St. Louis City SC with a 5-1 victory over allegedly the best team in the MLS, which is Cincinnati FC. So get fucked, Cincinnati. I mean, honestly, like, holy shit.
That was awesome.
Hoove and I were sitting 4 rows away from each other, just looking at each other the whole game. Like, what are we on about? But it's amazing what I'll say. It's amazing what we can do when we play a formation that we know.
Bingo.
Back to basics.
That's it. I mean, like, that was the difference. Like, that's all that I saw personally was the formation change, the same style, high press, and it worked to a T. I mean, it was flawless. We didn't play against ourselves. They played the game that they know and took it to Cincinnati. And I mean, you can look in the stats, you can look in all of everything, and Cincinnati had the momentum. Cincinnati had a lot of the ball. They played in our half. There was good defense, and we just pick off a pass and run it down and score. Like we had a 1.4 xG. We scored 5 goals. That's insane.
Feels so good being on the right side of that for the first time all season. Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. There was an hour. There was a 90-minute, hour and 50-minute weather delay.
Yeah, it was 2 hours. I mean, game time was 7:30. We kicked off at 9:50.
Yeah,
it was long.
Yeah, and if there's anything to be said about that, it's that the fans were not super well informed, I think. First major weather event that you've had at a kickoff game at the new city park, and there's always a learning curve. But again, in the entertainment management major in me, I had a venue management class, like venue management 457, whatever. That's
Did you have
one
that
of
with
the
Hebert
first things. I don't know, maybe. No, I don't think he was in my major, but that's one of the first things you do is you set a plan, you have a weather plan, you enact it. The first issue, we were lucky enough to have Ultra Club seats that night, so
that's a great background.
That should have been all of our background.
Yeah.
Up in the corner, they caught me on the TV, but yeah, so they said in the weather plan, they're like, yeah, you can get in during weather events, like severe weather events. In the Ultra Club section, it's safe. That's where you can enter, but all other gates will be closed. Please find shelter elsewhere. That was made clear. People were not getting into the Ultra Club. They were not letting people in. They were too packed. They had people in bathrooms for like 90 minutes. The people outside the stadium were essentially hosed. They weren't letting anyone in. So we were all scrambling quite literally in a lightning storm with a tornado approaching. to Union Station where thousands of people just gathered, or Maggie O'Brien's where it was packed wall to wall, or Cyberg's, I think, as well as where you were. And then not a word about the restart of the game until 45 minutes before the game via St. Louis sports media, not the club. So that was disappointing. You know, people were rightly pissed, I think. Just that it was really, really unsafe for where a lot of us were. But, you know, seeing the club side of things, if it was that bad and they had people in the bathrooms, they couldn't, you know, they weren't letting more people in. It's still an outdoor facility. So that was shitty. But again, I don't think there's a ton, you know, other than just communication
Yeah, I think communication is the big thing. Like, I mean, obviously, like you just said, we were sitting at Cyberg's, which holy shit, lucky that we got there and we got a table. I mean, we were eating, we were drinking, like we were fine. But to hear nothing for like over an hour, you know, for me, like I don't have that major. I didn't take that class, but if I'm in like some sort of, you know, event where 22,000 people are waiting for my word, I'm updating that bitch every 10 minutes. Like I'm saying, even if there's like, hey, no update since the last one, like people just knowing that you know, that they know, that you know, like it's still super important.
It's very basic customer service etiquette, right?
101.
And we've all worked in, whether it was a part-time job growing up or full-time job where customer service is paramount to everything else, and this is no different from that. And my brain, like, so I was in Kansas City, obviously trying to watch it on my phone while the UFC fights were going on, but I'm getting texts from you guys about like no update yet, other friends of mine, you know, other people are texting me that are going to the game. They're like nothing yet, and I'm just sitting here like, so this, you go into the stadium for the first time and you see like buying food and drinks is so automated and like all this stuff is so nice and new and up to date, but then they can't do exactly what you just said, Hen, and send out a text or like a notification in the city app every, you know, 20, 15, 20, 30 minutes, whatever it is, but just like way more often than what, from what I understood they did, is just a big miss on their part. But, you know, I think that as as supporters who are gonna continue to go to these games, we can only hope that they, you know, learn from it, and this isn't going to be the last storm in, you know, St. Louis history that affects one of these games. So as long as they learn from it, I think that
I hope they do.
We kind of got to take it with a grain of salt, it being the first season.
Yeah, I'm like, you know, part of me, yes, first season, part of me also is like, these are professionals and this is their job to do it, and they miss the mark communicating their job. Like, it's rightly so to be critical of that. So like, there's that. I do hope that they learn, because it would feel like a real kick in the balls if like a similar thing happens and they just like don't do anything different. That would suck. But to the game itself, fellas, I mean, we looked great. I think the formation was certainly one of it. I think getting a goal 3 minutes into the game changes things a lot. Lucas, you say this a lot in other areas of our life, that everyone has a plan to get punched in the face, but you know, they scored 3 minutes into the game. It's hard to stick to a game plan when you're already down 1-0. Two of our first 3 goals came off of set pieces, whether it was a broken set piece or a direct, the initial cross went in. That's huge. That's huge for us, especially when we are used to playing counterattack football. We're used to sitting back and absorbing pressure. If we can capitalize on set pieces, that's massive. I couldn't be more over the moon for Giacchini. I think that him scoring a goal, him playing in the way that he did, was massive for his own confidence. You know, literally when the ball went in, when he scored, I said in my head, like, thank you to all of the clubs that passed on him. Orlando City, thank you so much.
Yep.
Like, yeah, like so stoked that it's working out for him here. Not saying that he's going to win player of the year, but he's doing the job that he's suited for. I also want to eat my words a little bit of Rasmus Alm. 1 or 2 games into the season, I talked about on this podcast how I had a little bit of speculation on him, that I felt like he wasn't necessarily meshing with the team the same way a lot of the other guys were. He came in and put it in a shift. I thought that he was going to go out injured like 15 minutes into the game, chose not to go out injured, ended up scoring technically an own goal. from their keeper, but I mean, he hit the fucking he hit a missile and it went off the goalkeeper's head, whatever. But he put in a huge shift. And lastly, I want to shout out our wing backs, both of them. Your right back boy, Nerwinski, or whatever his last name is. I also have to learn these guys' names way better. The left and right back are the only two guys that I don't know their last names because I'm just like low on them. But our right back was arguably man of the match, in my opinion. He's not the sexy pick because you have like Lowen scoring a goal, you have Giacchini scoring a goal, you have Hebert scoring a goal. But our right back was fucking nails the whole game. Nothing came down his side. He looked awesome going forward. Like, low key shout of man of the match for me. So I was stoked that's what we saw after a 2-hour rain delay. And it was also my brother's first game that he got to see live. So I was excited that was his first game. Dylan Lee, shout out to you. I know that was your first game that you got to watch. Actually, the first 3 goals that we scored, they celebrated directly in front of where Dylan and his wife were sitting, awesome. Like literally right in front, which is so sick. So, great game, great bounce back, as you said, Dobes. And fuck you, Cincinnati.
Yeah. Pen or Dobes?
I mean, I don't have much to say. When this game was going on, I was, a few, as Butch would say, sodas deep at a wedding with this game on my phone, leaning against a soda as I was coming back, checking the game between dances. So I don't exactly have the best analysis for the game, but
not a tactical breakdown for us.
I don't have a tactical breakdown, but something that I did see that got posted that was pretty cool was talking about like essentially the amount of money that we paid for these players on this team, like going through the back four, and like Berkey's free, Hebert's free, Nelson's free, Parker was only 500K, Nerwinski was free, like Vasilev expansion draft, Lowen 1 million, free, Stroud 100K, Giacchini expansion draft, Klaus 3 million. And like, this is a team that's at the top of the fucking league.
Yeah.
Like, and so like that's like one of those things that like, this is a group of players that have clearly like sort of bought into a system and a way of playing. And I do think, as funny as it was, like the 4-4-2 formation came back, and you can clearly see that it just instantly changed. The guys are more comfortable, and it was to the identity of how we want to play. And so it just goes to show that like, if you can get a group of guys to sort of buy into like, a way of playing and a mentality that, and they can do it correctly, and everybody knows their roles. Doesn't matter who you have, it can work, and that's exactly what we've seen from City at the weekend.
Moneyball, baby.
This was this was the one that we earned some respect. I think like since he really came in, everyone was like, all right, these guys are legit. This will be the test for St. Louis. And we rolled them. So I think we've earned a lot of national respect. The first 5 games were not a fluke. The 17 goals we scored are not a fluke. We're real. We're here. Dude, we're going to win it. We're going to win it. I swear.
Yeah. I mean, I hope so. We take on Colorado this upcoming weekend, which Colorado is not good. They're 11th in our division. They have won a singular game. They've tied 4 and they've lost 3. So they're not good. I'm hoping for another 3 points. We play at Colorado, which is always a shout with elevation, but you never know. I feel high on the City Boys, which is great. So that was our weekly recap. You can always count on that from us. We'll recap our teams as well as St. Louis City. We love covering the St. Louis City team. Hoover, moving on to flowers and showers. You're taking it this week. If you're new to the segment, every week we give weekly flowers and weekly showers. So weekly flowers is someone or some team or something that happened that we want to highlight, that we want to celebrate, that we think is great. Weekly showers is something that just didn't go well, that they just need to hit the showers, get out of here, maybe get it next week. So Hoover, you get to take it this week.
I'll stick with the flowers and the lads from St. Louis, and specifically Johnny Nelson, who is the left back, and another guy whose name I learned probably 2 weeks ago. We got him from FC Cincinnati. So this weekend was a huge match for him. He came out in the press and said, yeah, I just really want to win. Like, I really want to beat these guys. So he came out, put in a shift, had a bull run down the left side with a nutmeg included that eventually led to a goal. And you could see the players come over to him like, Yeah, like that was sick. There's a screenshot that Dobe sent into our group chat earlier of an immediate reaction from Edward Lowen and the defender who he nutmegged. And Lowen was like, ooh, and the defender had his eyes shut, looking to the heavens. So yeah, Johnny Nelson gets the flowers this week, puts in a shift, did really well against his former team. And then the Showers could go everywhere, right? We got shambolic clubs across the country and in England too. But we're gonna go with Chelsea just in general, and we're gonna go maybe top to bottom.
Literally just the whole club.
We can go a little bit top to bottom. So losing to Brighton, I don't discredit Chelsea for losing to Brighton. I think Brighton beat a lot of teams in a lot of different weeks and do it well. I think that Todd Bowley coming into the locker room after that loss and basically telling the players that they've been embarrassing and that their performances have been poor to their faces is clown show activity. I think if he was some well-revered owner over the last 30 years, and that's not something that he does very often, totally different conversation. But he came down, spent $760 million, and then basically tells these guys to their faces that they've been underperforming. Like, you don't fucking think that they know that, Todd. Thank you for that assistance.
Yeah, Todd.
Frank Lampard, who has not yet won a game yet as manager since coming in on interim under Todd Bowley's direction, defended Todd Bowley in the media, saying that totally normal for the ownership to come down, have a word. He's saying that the previous owner did not do that as much, and sometimes he felt it was necessary. Weird reactions, I think, to how that went down. And I do agree. We talked earlier, Todd, that's Frank setting face a little bit. And trying to keep a permanent job going forward. But yeah, not a lot going right at the club to say right now. And it's nice to see their downfall because Spurs suck too, but they're holding a European position for now. So lads, I love my Chelsea friends, but hit the showers.
Hit the showers. Do you think that there... This was a legitimate thought that I had today, and I don't know how much life there is to this, but it's worth a question. Do you think that there's a possibility that Frank Lampard gets sacked before the end of the season?
With Chelsea,
who knows? They could have two more managers before the end of the season, dude.
He's got the interim title, so it's not like there's conversations about him rebuilding the club. They just need him to pull out some results.
But that's the thing. Like, yeah. So this will transition us nicely into our Champions League preview. But like, they get rolled by Real Madrid is my assumption. And then let's just say they lose the next 3 or 4 games in the Prem, and they lose it in a manner that's just like not good to look at. We all know what it's like to lose on the 90th minute where some teams just scores a worldie, whatever. But like, they lose it in bad fashion like they've been playing all season. Is there a world where Todd Bowley says, we'll give someone else a try for the remaining 4 games?
100%. 100%. Yeah. I was reading today that like of course it's Nagelsmann and Enrique, who are like the 2 most like linked coaches to Chelsea right now. And I've been reading like from like Enrique's representatives that he's like already getting frustrated with Chelsea at like, that they gave the job to Lampard because like he like had said that he showed interest and was extremely interested in the job, and then they all of a sudden they gave the job to Lampard. Like I just think that like if why wait to the summer if you can get your guy in before the summer? Yes, Frank's here, like, and he's not exactly doing him any favors. It's not like he came in and said, "I'm winning games, like keep me in for longer." Like they're still terrible. But I think if a deal is struck and the right guy's there, like I think 100% it's possible that even if it's just for a game at the end of the season, like I think it's definitely possible.
Crazy to think about that you'd sack an interim manager before the end of the season, but with Chelsea, you never know. So Chelsea go into the Champions League with a 2-0 deficit against Real Madrid, which I think they were fortunate to pull away in that last leg with a 2-0 loss, and I say that very kindly. There's a red card in there, 10 men, and only to be down 2-0. I think honestly, I don't know this verbatim, but I think Jake came on here last week and said if we can go into Stamford Bridge with Stamford Bridge with like a 1-2 goal deficit. You never know what can happen at Stamford Bridge. I think that Real Madrid is still going to win. Don't get me wrong, but there's still life to this Chelsea team in the Champions League.
Yeah, there is.
No.
And
No.
I don't
None.
know. It's tough. How do you? I mean, you back yourself at home against whoever, but it's not like Stamford Bridge exactly been a fortress this year. But yeah, I think there's just too much quality with Real Madrid, and we're not going to see a lineup or system that is going to be something that shows Real Madrid any scares. So
yeah,
It's going to be a different lineup from every other game.
Yeah.
They put out
Sure.
there's
Yep.
no consistency, so it's impossible to back something when you've put out a different starting 11 and a different formation, every game this season.
are we unanimous in that Real Madrid is just going to coast through this?
I think that I do think that Chelsea can make it a game, but I think the only way that Chelsea make this a game is if they score and they're stretched because they have to go
And
for it.
Benzema gets hurt.
Yeah, well, yeah, or Benzema
And
gets
Vinny.
hurt, but
And like
And
four
Vinny
of
was
them
I
are
just-
starters.
gross.
I think that going the other way, especially in transition, like one, there's not the continuity within a back four, even a team that's great at like stopping a counter. Yet again, one of the like most experienced, best front threes in Europe when it comes to these games. So like, I do think Chelsea can make it a game. They'd have to play absolutely perfect in order to get a result at all. But I still think even if they play well, maybe they do get one early. Like I think Madrid has the potential just to continuously catch them on the break. All I needed to see was like Benzema getting off the plane from like landing in London and just like winking in the camera to know that like he may have like three.
Yeah,
So,
he might have 7 in him. Who knows?
So I do think
For
there's an opportunity, but I don't think it'll happen.
for our betting fans out there, for our degenerates, Real Madrid are minus 1,300 to advance. And I think that that's extremely accurate. It has to be one of the
I'm putting 1,000
highest.
on it.
Yeah. Put 1,300 to 100 every
Yeah,
other week.
just
But
marginal victories here.
yeah, and that's got to be one of the higher, betting odds that I've seen for a quarterfinal match in the Champions League.
I know that we can't fully dive deep into it, but how electric Vinicius is against
Man.
supposedly one of the best right backs in the world of Reece James. I mean, Vinicius just ate his lunch, and
Yeah.
he is still so young. I know that wingers peak early, but he's early. Like, what is he, like 22, 23, something in that range? Butch isn't here. He can't tell me his birthday, but like he's real young to be playing that well. I think that we're going to be seeing a lot of Vinicius for the next couple of years. Napoli Milan. Now, this is a 1-0 aggregate so far for Milan, going back to Milan. This is one that shocked me. Now, Napoli is without Osimhen, or they were at least in the first leg. I don't know what his injury update is for this upcoming game, but Napoli did not look good. Zambo Anguissa also got a red card in the game. He will not be featured in the second leg. It's not looking good for Napoli. Jake mentioned last week that we hope that Milan doesn't spoil Napoli's run to the final because we feel like Napoli could be the team in Italy to do it, but they didn't look good in that first leg.
No, and I'll have to eat some words on this one. I thought this was going to be a Napoli bounce back. They lost earlier, last week to Milan in the league, which they'd already won. So I think that is worth throwing out. But they didn't. You're right. They did not look good, and I think they looked worse than Milan looked good. Milan did what their game plan was set to do. And they looked exactly like they played against Spurs in the sense that they soaked a lot, they sprung good counters, they scored on one. So back at Milan, this is a super interesting fixture, and I have a hard time seeing Napoli pull it back out if they look like they did.
I just can't imagine a world where Osimhen doesn't play. If Osimhen doesn't start, they don't win. I just don't think it's going to happen.
This is the must-watch game. Like this is like I think this game has the potential to be electric. Like I think if Madrid comes out and scores one early, like I think that tie is just done. And I think this one where Napoli has to go for it a little bit. These two teams know each other. They don't like each other. I think this like has a chance with fireworks. And I do think that Osman is, if I was reading today, that he will start. And I do think that like him getting two is not out of the question. Like quickly, Napoli gets
Mm-hmm.
back in this, but at the same time, like Milan, as we saw in the first leg, is a good side. Like,
Yeah.
and if Napoli's not on their A game, like they're not gonna get through here. I'm pretty sure I'm the one that said that if anybody were to win, that it was going to be Napoli, any Italy side. So I kind of
Mhm.
need a bounce back performance today,
Yeah,
bad.
same.
Yeah, just for the pride, you know.
Yeah,
Well,
just for pride.
we'll see how they do. Italian sides against each other typically is electric, and I don't think this one's going to be any different. I hope that Osman plays. You never want to see one side obviously weakened by injuries and not see the great game that we could be promised to if both sides were at full strength. So we're not going to touch on Inter Benfica. Again, last week we talked about this. We don't have too many notes on it, but Inter goes into this tie with a 2-0 victory in the first leg. Lukaku scoring goals, whatever. Like, we'll see how that goes. Apparently, Inter doesn't want to keep Lukaku into the new year. So, Chelsea, welcome back. But Bayern versus City, this was a shocker for me. I know that I had City edging Bayern at the Etihad. I did not expect a 3-0 rout. City looked better in every aspect of the game in the first leg. I don't even know if that's up for debate.
They were nails. They were nails. They've like that's the City team that we are talking about winning the Premier League. Like that is the team that is gonna do it no matter when and where and who. They're gonna go back to Bayern and Cruz, I think. They looked so good. They looked so good. There's I don't have a ton else. Like every facet that Pep puts into his teams was on full display. The passing, the movement, they were shredding Bayern apart. There was an altercation with Leroy Sané and Mane after
Yeah,
the
that's
game. I
wild.
guess Mane
Yeah.
punched Sadio or Mane punched Leroy. You could tell that there was tension between them on the field watching the game too. But it was indicative of the entire event. They were all so frustrated that they could not get anything going. And it was a masterclass. Like I think that's just the way to put it.
This Bayern team, since Tuchel has taken over, we were talking about this, that like they were in three competitions. Since Tuchel took over, they got knocked out of the DFB Polka. They're down 3-0 in the Champions League to City. Like they just tied at the weekend to Hoffenheim. And then on the polar opposite of the spectrum, we talked about City earlier. We have the City team who looked like they're in the absolute form of the season. To where I think if City get one or two, like I think this is one of those games where like you're pulling Holland off in the 60th minute
Oh
and
yeah.
saying if we're up by nuts, let's get to the next round. Let's keep our guys healthy, which is
Yeah.
crazy to say with how excited that all of us were coming into this tie. But now all of a sudden it's like polar opposite where Bayern is just spiraling and City are roaring right at the right time. So I think City does cruise. As much as I do hope for goals, I think City cruises.
Yeah, and to speak to their depth, you're pulling Holland off. Let's just even call it earlier, pulling him off at halftime. You're putting on World Cup winning Julian Alvarez in
Yeah,
the Mecca of Banter team of the tournament at the World Cup,
yeah,
Julian Alvarez. So I think that that's just something to call out. Also, Upamecano just had an absolute shocker in that
terrible.
first
Yeah, he
leg. I
did.
mean,
He really did.
I mean, even the announcers said of like a couple of times were saying like if Bayern are asking themselves where did it all go wrong, they'll be looking at that man right there. Like, which announcers don't all the time like go in on a player, but it was deserved. I mean, it was a terrible showing for him. So we'll see what happens with the Champions League. I think that we all have our locks for a couple of games. We'll see what happens in the Napoli Inter game, but last but not least, in the Europa League, we have Manchester United against Sevilla in a 2-2 game at Sevilla. So embarrassing from Manchester United to bottle a 2-0 lead in the last couple of minutes in the game.
Now
We
that
took
is a bottle job.
That is a.
it is.
Two
I
own
mean,
goals too, bro.
I
That
mean,
it was laughing.
Harry.
it reminded me so much of last year where we just couldn't do anything, and it was no shock to me that we pulled off Bruno. We had the two injuries at center back, and we conceded two own goals. I mean, the first one, to break it down, Malacia, there was a long ball over the top. Malacia just completely went to sleep. Like literally didn't even check his shoulders to see who was around him, but just didn't even try to go for the ball. And then Guy comes in, puts a shot on goal, and De Gea had been playing incredibly all game long, and that shot beats him because it deflects off this crazy angle, and that's what that was. And then the second goal, not only did it go off of Harry Maguire's head, which of course it had to be that. It had to be a Maguire own goal, but Casemiro got out jumped by like a body's length. The guy that came on for Sevilla, I think it's like El Nasri, whatever his name is, who played unreal at the World Cup, but he came on, out jumped Casemiro by a body's length and just out muscled him completely. United bottled that at home. Dobes and I talked about this last week going into this tie, that we were so excited to play at home for the first leg because we feel like we could have, a nice and easy win. And now it's up for grabs. We're without Bruno because of yellow cards accumulations, which was a bullshit yellow, by the way. He's out. Our center back's out. We have no idea what we'll see on Thursday from the formation, but I'm personally nervous about it. Sevilla's been our bogey team in Europe for the last several years. It never feels good playing against them in Europe, but we fucked that one in the first leg. Absolutely fucked it.
Yeah, I mean, sure. First leg sucked. I mean, just the injuries. I think there's been very few moments within this season where you've been able to be critical of Eric Ten Hag, and I think that game was one of them. And the reason I say that is because up to nothing at home, I completely disagree with the way that he handled the subs. Like I think that yes, 3-0. I think that it makes sense to bring in a Weghorst, you bring in Alanga, give Pellistri some minutes. Even with the sort of the injuries we had, that's still not an excuse. Like I still think we should have got a third goal or a fourth goal to sort of put that one away before making the subs that we did. I also think that the only thing I was a little bit worried about is just the lack of Bruno Fernandes moving into Thursday. I think that Ten Hag will be able to figure out a back four in order for us to be able to beat Sevilla. But Bruno Fernandes has created the most chances this year in the Premier League by like 20. And he is so important to the way that we play that I think he's a key miss. But at the same time, I fully expect us to figure out a way to win because that's just what Eric Ten Hag has shown the entire season is that in the moments when things don't look great, for example, this weekend, where we have two makeshift center backs, our right back's playing as a left back, we arguably look the best that we've looked in the entire season. So I have no reason to think that he won't do the same thing. Yeah, of course, the first game sucked, but if we can get Rashford back, I think we have more than enough quality. And truthfully, I think the Brighton game has the potential to be a little bit more important. I think we have the dogs in order to beat Sevilla. Like Sevilla has to play like the perfect game, which they're capable of in order to beat us. But I think we have too much quality that I do think we still get through.
Yeah.
I think the Ten Hag decision to use all five subs and
So
then
stupid.
go a man down and
So
not have
Yeah.
someone to
stupid.
come on for an injured player. That's like rule number one in
Yeah.
coaching.
Yeah.
Like you make that last sub with 10 minutes left because someone's hurt, or you keep it available. 5 minutes left, you put a guy on. Like
Yeah.
that's rule number one in game management. And also, big shout out to FIFA 13 legend Jesus Navas for that absolute missile that did go in off of David De Gea. That guy's like 35 years old and absolutely still out here. So shouts to that.
Those blue eyes will pierce your soul. So time will tell. A little bit later this week, Connor and I are going to be bringing you an updated Mecca Moments where we're going to be previewing Brighton. We'll also probably talk a little bit about the Sevilla game as well. So keep that in what you're looking forward to this week. But that wraps it for this week's edition of the Mecca of Banter podcast. We want to thank you so much for listening. As always, follow us on all of our socials, on the TikTok, on the Twitter, which I want to call out Charlotte FC fans, soft as can be.
Soft,
I don't
Toilet
trust
paper.
that
Charmin.
like this podcast is going to create beef with the entire Charlotte FC fan club, but holy fuck, man, so soft. But follow us on all of our socials. It's a ride. Chime in on the banter. We're always encouraging it. But until then, cheers, lads. Well done this week.
Good stuff, guys.
Cheers, boys.
Yep. Cheers, fellas.